Tonight, we open our minds to new ideas. We try to see the world differently than the way we normally do. In fact, we challenge ourselves to throw away the word normal altogether. We try to rethink our perceptions of what is possible. Tonight, we learn how to redefine. Hello, and welcome to this year's TEDxYouth at Chatham live stream. I'm Maddie Boland, a junior here at CHS, and one of the 2020 TEDx speakers. And I am so thrilled to be here tonight with all of you. It's been a while since the debut of our very first virtual TEDx last June, and I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot has changed since then, especially for high schoolers. Tonight, you're going to hear from 5 astounding students on how they've grown to redefine the way they see the world around them. So, are you ready to be inspired? Our first speaker is no stranger to the stage. So please help me welcome Gabrielle Vecchiarelli, who's going to take us through her journey of redefining theater in a global pandemic.
Broadway was having its moment. Attendance had reached an all-time high, a total of 14.8 million people. Every theater was booked, with backup shows waiting to come in as soon as a venue became available. Lin-Manuel Miranda is an international superstar, not because of film or TV, but because of a Broadway show. There was no denying it. Theater had become a force. And then, literally overnight, it all stopped. Broadway went dark, and theaters across the country closed. In an instant, live theater went from this to this. Yes, you are looking at a picture of professional musicians performing to a live audience of plants. I was trying to process it all. Clearly, there were so many people affected by this pandemic who lost family members, their health, their jobs. I'm truly grateful that, for now, my main loss is simply life as I knew it at the time. See, for me, theater is much more than just a form of entertainment. It's been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. Notable past performances include my portrayal of a cupcake in my preschool's production of The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And my castmates ranged from my little brother to my babysitter to literally anyone I could convince to perform with me. Theater is where I've met all my closest friends. In fact, as I scrolled through my Instagram feed in March, I realized that I had made a lot of friends through theater. And theater has this unique way of making me feel truly myself. I really can't remember what my life was like before theater was in it. Unfortunately, in March 2020, it seemed I was about to find out. It was my freshman year. We were in rehearsals for Godspell, my first high school musical, when everyone started pulling out their phones. An email had been sent out by the superintendent. School was closing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and with it, our show. That was March 12th, 2020. Like most people, I had yet to understand the true impact of what was happening. That night, Broadway shut down. I was starting to get a clear picture. At first, there was nothing. Theaters went dark, riding out the storm until they could open again. Weeks became months, and it was clear there was no easy fix. The very essence of what makes theater so impactful is also what makes it nearly impossible to produce during a pandemic. The methods used to fight the pandemic, covering faces with masks, limiting in-person interaction, and staying apart, are exactly the opposite of what is typically understood to be the shared communal experience of live theater. That experience can be equally impactful whether you're a performer or a member of the audience. One experience in the audience that I will never forget was seeing the original cast of Hamilton perform on Broadway. It goes without saying that I was blown away by the show, the actors, the orchestra, even the set. But there was something else about that day. something that I wasn't expecting to have such an impact on me. It was the other audience members. You could feel the excitement before we even entered the theater. The girl in front of me had flown in from Missouri and was writing a story for Scholastic News. She interviewed me for her story. We excitedly talked about what each scene might look like on stage, and noticed complete strangers all around us also talking as if they had known each other for years. In that moment, we had formed a connection, not only with the performers, but also with the other audience members. Looking back, I realized that theater is able to remind us that we're not alone. After the performance, we waited outside the stage door and were rewarded when Anthony Ramos came out and signed my playbill. It was a truly amazing end to an incredible experience. But now, looking at these pictures through the lens of a global pandemic, I see a potential super spreader event. And I realize that these experiences may be forever changed. At the start of the pandemic, I read about the possibilities of socially distant and virtual theater, which sounded disappointing and not the same, or so I thought. Turns out, as with so many of the changes happening because of the pandemic, all I needed was to redefine my perspective. Here's a perfect example. A few months ago, an elementary school teacher created a song on TikTok called Ode to Remy.
Remy, the ratatouille, the rat of all my dreams. I praise you, my ratatouille. May the world remember your name.
Doesn't sound like much, right? It went viral. Is this what theater had become? But some people looked at that 15-second song clip and saw something different. TikTokers all across the world added orchestrations, choreography, and composed songs for other characters. It was eventually made into a fully fledged 45-minute musical, complete with a star-studded cast and a 20-piece orchestra. The event was filmed virtually and became known as Ratatouille the TikTok Musical. This production inspired theater professionals to go beyond their traditional methods of creativity, captivated audiences, and in the process raised $2 million for the Actors Fund, an organization that helps performing artists in need. So many people in the theater community had lost so much in terms of missed opportunities, their jobs, their health, and yet they're still fearlessly adapting to make theater a reality despite the challenges of COVID. Instead of focusing on what was no longer possible because of the pandemic, the Ratatouille musical made me realize I needed to see everything that was possible. On a personal level, I was also able to perform in theater in ways that I never imagined. I got to perform a socially distanced Beauty and the Beast ballroom dance, and it was equally fun and magical. I continue to make friends despite our masks and social distancing. With my eyes open to new possibilities, I even participated in an entirely virtual Zoom musical. Remember the high school production that had to be canceled at the start of the pandemic? Well, high school theater has found a path forward as well. This fall, along with 34 other castmates, I was able to perform in my school's fall play, The Laramie Project. Like many things these days, the experience felt unfamiliar. The seats were empty, there were video cameras recording our every move. However, I was still able to connect with people who share not only my love of theater, but also the sadness in watching it disappear. We were now part of a new theater experience during the pandemic, despite all the obstacles. Theater was still able to remind us that we're not alone. Like most people, I wonder what the future will hold. It's hard to imagine what everyday life will look like in the coming months. Despite all the obstacles, I truly hope we can return to the live theater experiences we all remember. Until then, I realize now that I have to redefine the way I look at things. I still avidly read everything I can find on the future of theater. And recently, I came across this picture again. Only this time, I saw something different. In reading about the circumstances that led up to that most unusual performance, I found out that the event was held at Barcelona's Opera House on the first day that the 3-month national lockdown was lifted in Spain. The event was conceived by a Spanish artist who was inspired by the nature he noticed for the first time during the quiet of the shutdown. He filled the 2,292 seats of the Opera House with plants brought in from local nurseries. As the string quartet performed, the event was live streamed on June 22, 2020. After the concert, the plants were donated to healthcare workers on the front lines with a certificate from the artist. As I thought about these plants as a symbol of beauty born out of tremendous struggle, I was actually reminded of a quote from Disney's Mulan. "The flower that blooms in adversity is the rarest and most beautiful of all." I think that perfectly describes theater and life during these uncertain times. Theater will continue to evolve and blossom during the pandemic. And part of what makes art so beautiful during these times is that people are beginning to appreciate it more now that it's hard to come by. We will have live theater again, but until the curtain rises, let's embrace these new moments that have been born out of adversity and enjoy life and the theater in it for all that it is and all that it will become. Thank you.
Wow, an opera house full of plants? That's a big change. Let's take a look at how our own CHS theater program has evolved during the pandemic.
Hey everyone, I'm Tanner and I'm about to take you backstage at the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I play Douglas Ponch, Vice Principal. And the one thing I would use to describe Ponch is he's misunderstood.
Hi, I'm Charlie Britt Hassel and I play William Barthet.
All right, so Nicole and Megan are dyeing Megan's hair right now.
Campbell, tell me about being an AD.
So if you're an AD, you basically get to boss people around and then instruct them on what to do. So if someone isn't doing the right thing, like when they're supposed to be setting up, you basically just go, it's time to go set up now, and then they go set up.
This is Dash, he's setting up the poster.
So right now I'm going to get my mic. It's really sunny.
Our candidates just came in, they look so good.
Hi, my name is Rona Lisa Peretti, and I am the host of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling.
Hi, I'm Ren. I play Mitch Mahoney, who is, he just got out of prison and is now running a sort of home for troubled kids.
All right, Tanner, so where are we going now?
We are going to get Olive's dictionary.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. Dictionary.
It's the dictionary.
We got it.
We got the dictionary.
Yes, we did.
What's inside of the dictionary?
There is actually nothing inside of it.
Yeah, because English doesn't exist.
It's supposed to be a lot of words, but no.
Being a director for the show is the most important job. It's amazing. I love my cast. It's a super fun show. Everybody needs to come see it. I haven't slept in like 3 months, but that's all right. It's worth it.
Yay. That's good. Okay, so it turns out that everyone was not changing and they were planning a surprise birthday party for me and Sarah.
All right, so we officially have my mic, and I just realized that I forgot my special Rona pen in the dressing room, so I'm gonna go get that. And yeah, then I'm gonna finish setting up the table, so.
Okay guys, we're in the dressing room. Everyone's say hi. Hey guys, so we're in costume and we're doing mic check. Everyone say hi. Hi. Ava, get in.
I'm concussed.
Oh, no. So we're about to go on. It's gonna be great. No one's looking, but...
How are you feeling about the first act of your first musical at Chatham?
We just finished Act 1. It was a major success.
I'm
very
definitely
funny.
getting a note.
Spelled Mexican with a Y.
Hey guys, here we are, intermission vlog.
INT, baby, INT.
Yes.
Just got eliminated. What are you gonna do?
Tanner's
What are you gonna do?
It's a snack break now.
Snack break. Hey guys, so we just finished opening night. It was so good. Oh my god. Literally, it's literally so good. Wait, I gotta get, yes, be in vlog.
Hello,
The audience was so engaged.
So engaged, it was awesome.
I could really use some Gatorade, Chipotle, and ice cream in that order.
Me too.
It's so wonderful to see the arts thriving under such unique conditions. I know from experience just how meaningful it is to be able to experience theater, even if the environment is a little bit different. Speaking of the arts, this year we have Kate Hackett to thank for our spectacular TEDx logo. Now, while our entertainment and our small businesses and education have all had to reimagine the way they operate, people have had to reinvent the way that they see the world around them. Our next speaker is going to share how surfing shaped the way he glides through life. Please welcome Nolan Costello.
When I sit on my surfboard in the ocean, I'm at peace. My legs dangle in the water. The current shifts my board slightly, pulling me to no particular destination. This is my happy place. I smell the brine sea breeze lightly blowing at my back. The sea level drops in preparation for the wall of salt water raining down. The sheer intensity is enough to disconcert even the most unflappable individual. I stare down the side of the wave as it curls intensely over the reef. This contradictory force of nature, so powerful, yet so peaceful. I started surfing only a year ago, but already I am amazed at the parallels I can draw to my own life. The wave itself is a beautiful thing. Similar to humans, each wave is different, but what drives the wave comes from a common place, the wind. The wave allows the wind to mold it and change it as it moves. This represents my ability to go with the flow and adapt to circumstances. For years, my dad was the coach of my baseball and basketball teams. You might think that was an advantage, but I was the last to bat and got the least amount of playing time. My dad knew I could take it. He had to deal with competitive parents, making sure every kid got their fair share of playing time. I was able to let it roll off my back. Just like that, I'd unknowingly learned a valuable skill in life, but it wasn't until I started surfing that I realized how valuable that skill could be going forward. I've also adapted to changes in my family. Just a few years ago, we were a family of 5. Now, with both my siblings off at college, I have fit in as the only child home, and I've learned to become a part of adult conversations that used to seem foreign to me. As a beginner surfer, taking the drop or picking a line down the wave to ride can be one of the toughest obstacles physically and mentally. Committing to a line requires a surfer to be brave and vulnerable to a wipeout. Similarly, over the past few years, I have grown more confident in my own thoughts and opinions and have grown to love public speaking. Whether I'm in front of an audience or on top of a wave, the butterfly feeling in my stomach threatens to change the way I react. The most important factor for overcoming this fear is recognition. Out in the water, you must be aware of your surroundings. Once I recognize what is causing my fear, I can carry on confidently. Riding the wave is where most of the action happens. While the ride requires quick thinking, the most important factor for surfing success is being able to see the whole situation. What is ahead? What is around? What is behind? In every life situation, try to have perspective. The more we can peel back to see the whole picture, the more knowledge we have to make sound decisions. Whether I'm playing basketball and trying to see the whole court, or dealing with peer social situations, having perspective keeps me from sweating the small stuff. As you can see, that's me, on my first wave ever. I look like I'm having fun, right? Based on my talk so far, I'm sure you'd assume I was jumping around restlessly to get in the water for the first time. The funny thing is, I wasn't. That picture was taken on family vacation last summer. My mom was trying to figure out something fun we could do as a family. We could have either rented jet skis or surfboards. Now, being the adventurous individual I like to think I am, jet skis won me over. I proceeded to go on with my dad on vacation. Let's just say I did not get to bed at a decent hour that night. Next morning, I woke up to my mom screaming, "Get ready!" Now, for those of you who don't know me, I love my sleep. I remember being angry with her. I remember being frustrated by the fact that she scheduled an activity without my consent, and then proceeded to wake me up for it, on vacation. I slugged up out of bed and headed to the beach. All it took was one wave. One wave, and instantly I was hooked. I look back at that time and laugh myself for how arrogant and selfish I was that morning. Happy to know I'll never be like that ever again. Surfing has taught me to embrace the unknown and to try new things. That can be difficult in the fast-paced modern world we live in, but I want to challenge everyone to open themselves up to the possibility of something new. The waves are like my life. They have deep sections and steep parts that are choppy, and they have flatter sections that are smooth. I feel safe in the water. Surfing allows for the space and the time to reflect on the people we are and the people we want to be. Surfing gives the ability to reflect and to redefine what our goals are, as long as you stay true to yourself and remain easygoing but adaptable, confident but respectful of others, and maintain perspective. You can take all the waves head on. To the outside world, this may seem relative to the person I am. After all, not everyone is drawn to the ocean. But I believe there are benefits to surfing even if you aren't the most experienced person in the water. Not to mention, the two most important factors for boosting optimism and reducing stress and anxiety are to get outdoors and to exercise. The intimate interaction with nature helps the prefrontal cortex focus and helps stabilize mood. Not to mention, the two most important factors for boosting optimism and reducing stress are to get outside and to exercise. The mental health benefits to surfing are evident. Surfing has even been prescribed to kids with physical and mental disabilities, as well as adults with PTSD. The intimate interaction with nature helps the prefrontal cortex focus and helps stabilize mood. The mental health benefits of surfing transforms a simple activity into something much more. You're able to take something as intangible as a feeling and transcend those feelings into expression in the water. On the drop, everything going in your life takes a backseat. Making that wave is the only thought on your mind. This leads me to one of the most powerful attributes of surfing. Surfing allows you to stay in the present moment. A study from Microsoft Corp shows that our attention spans have decreased from 12 seconds to 8 seconds in the last 20 years due to the increasingly digitalized lifestyle. With virtual school in full effect and the boom of Zoom, this problem is only being expedited. The desire to live in the present moment has never been more prevalent. A common juxtaposition in surfing is that surfing is so peaceful, yet so violent at the same time. Venture too close to shore, and your world is turned upside down. Out behind the breaking waves, there is a sense of tranquility you just can't find anywhere else. The sense of living in the present adds to the calming effect. Surfing is about focusing on the moment in front of you. The ocean washes the world away for a few hours. In these technological times, it can be easy to get caught up in the chaos of life. But when you're in the ocean, time slows down. In an interview with surfing legend Greg Long, he says, "I don't believe there's any escaping the madness that exists within the walls of our fast-paced modern world. What you can do is learn to control where you focus your attention and how you react to your surroundings. That's one of the most prominent and primal lessons surfing teaches us. Worry about what may happen too far ahead or which that has already passed, and you're likely to falter. Fight too hard against the flow of energy around you, and you will struggle. The best version of ourselves exists when we are living and operating within the present moment." I know that was a lot, but I feel to get the most out of the wisdom from Greg, you have to hear the entire quote. As a surfer, sitting on your board, staring at the horizon, there's only one thought on your mind: the ocean. Constantly, you're analyzing each wave as it rolls past. Thoughts start to rush your brain. How can I put myself in the best position to catch this wave? Will I be able to make it? Will I be able to take a wipeout if I fall? Everything hits at once, and for those few hours, everything fades into the far distance. For those few hours, trying something new resembles something we were meant to do. Thank you.
Going with the flow. So simple, yet so powerful. I don't know about you, but that has me feeling inspired. Good thing one of last year's speakers is up next. Jacob Matthews, with help from senior Ozzy Richmond, are going to share with you their single, Inspired.
Hi, my name is Jacob Matthews.
And I'm Ozzy Richmond.
To me, this song is one of hope and optimism. It's about believing in something you can't see, and that sometimes believing is enough.
And I had to convey Jacob's message through visual mediums, and I hope you enjoy watching it as I did making it. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Back pressed up against the wall, I've heard the shot, haven't seen the call. My mind's made up to see the light, my eyes are still shut. Bright forecast on a dark day, the tides they churn but there are no waves. I crave all the meaning of what's out there, my heart is spoken. The brightness is in the air, I can't see yet, but I know it's there. I wanna reach out and play the game. I want one of my shots to take its aim. I wanna walk through the fire, I wanna be inspired, I wanna see my flames take shape. Oh, you'll see the sunlight on my face. Stands in a field on a rainy day with my hands stretched out to be taken away. Eyes shot on heart straight fixation. Staring at the darker sky, lightning bolts bound to tell me why. I've been standing long and with desperation. The brightness is in the air, I can't see yet, but I know it's there. I wanna reach out and play the game. I want one of my shots to take its aim. I wanna walk through the fire, I wanna be inspired, I wanna see my flames take shape. Oh, you'll see the sunlight on my face. I wanna walk through the fire, I wanna be inspired, I wanna see my flames take shape. Oh, you'll see the sunlight on my face.
That was amazing. It's so wonderful to see how members of our community are expressing themselves and finding the beauty even amongst the challenges. In our next talk, you'll hear from Sam Cotter on how he faced his fears through horror.
When I was little, I was what could be considered a pale shell of a child, scared of my own shadow. Growing up in Florida, I had a lot to be afraid of. Weird bugs, unsettlingly large gators, tourists. I felt as if the world was a terrifying place looking to kill me at every chance it got. Part of this, I believe, had to do with a then undiagnosed combination of depression and anxiety. Because of this, I'd hate myself for being such a coward. I'd lie awake at night despising myself for not going on a roller coaster with my friends or being too afraid to go trick-or-treating. It became a cycle of cowardice and self-pity. Of course, when I walked up to the Haunted Mansion at Disney, the cycle would repeat itself. And this happened every time we visited the park, feeding into the horrid cycle each visit. Then one day, my mother, in a stroke of genius, walked up to me and said, "Sam, how about when we get home, you can look up stuff about the ride online, so next time we come, we won't be afraid anymore." So I did. I went on to a then fledgling YouTube and started looking up footage of the ride, and honestly, I didn't really feel any different. So I kept searching. And eventually I found not just footage of the ride, but facts about it, names of the ghosts and how they came to be. I can recite the entire ride script in a heartbeat if I'm asked. I was finally ready. So, next time we went, I stepped up to the queue and honestly, I was still really scared. Petrified even, but I was ready. This is the moment I like to call the point of no return. A moment that would spark an undying fire within me that will never be extinguished. That day, the ride ran as it had for almost 40 years. But this ride-through would not just spark an obsession, but change the world as I saw it. I could tell, even during that first ride-through, that this wasn't just some dumb theme park ride. It was a labor of love, meticulously crafted over years by scores of talented individuals. It showed me death and decay, but at the same time, it created a passion. It gave me life. I fell in love with how it showed me the boundless yet friendly realm of the supernatural. The first thing I said when I got off that ride was, "Let's do it again!" And we did. We did it again, and again, and again, and again. I often wonder if my parents knew that that simple 10-minute ride had changed my life forever. The world I saw before was a frightening inferno. Knowing more about what you're afraid of takes power away from fear. The world I saw after was different. The world wasn't scary anymore. It was just misunderstood. Years would pass, and eventually my obsession with the Haunted Mansion would only grow and change. But in that time, I'd be diagnosed with Asperger's, depression, and anxiety. The kids in school would either ignore that I existed entirely or just flat out bully me. This all came to a head in the 5th grade, when I was home with a cold. I was scrolling through Netflix and stumbled across a film simply called The Mummy. Released in 1932 and starring a man named Boris Karloff, you'd expect this movie to be about some dead guy coming back to life to take over the world, but no. The titular mummy, Imhotep, was buried alive for a forbidden love with an ancient Egyptian princess. He awakes when unearthed, and disguises himself as a modern-day Egyptian in order to find his lost love and resurrect her. I fell in love with how, technically, Imhotep was an undead zombie, but he had feelings and struggles. As someone with Asperger's and someone who struggled with communicating, I felt seen seeing someone else, even a fictional character, go through that same thing. For the first time, it showed me that everyone, even a 3,000-year-old walking corpse, has emotions and can feel loneliness. I think loneliness is a horrible thing. When you feel alone, you can forget that there are thousands of other people who feel just like you do. And I think that finding something that makes you feel less alone can change your life forever. It frustrates me that so many people will dismiss these films as old cheesy schlock. Some people claim for them horror is escapism, helping them, even for a moment, escape the stresses of the real world and venture forth into the unknown. Some studies have even shown that being scared during a movie can help you on later out when you're dealing with a real-life stressful situation. A few years later, my mother would barge into my room and start taking all my horror memorabilia out. All this stuff I had worked so hard to accumulate was gone within the blink of an eye. All hockey masks and action figures were no more. She thought that all this stuff would corrode my mental state. I have no idea where she got that idea. I've always been extremely kind and gentle, but at first I was angry, but then sadness overtook me. But eventually, I found out about a horror convention in Orlando. And of course, my parents declined to take me at first, but eventually my mom agreed while my brother and dad went to a basketball game. And when we got there, I was surprised to find that she actually wasn't having a bad time. She was somewhat enjoying herself. I think she realized that the people attending these events were not, in fact, deranged lunatics, but doctors and lawyers. It was magical. For the first time in my life, I did not feel like a freak. There's something awesome about being surrounded by people from all walks of life, all ages and ethnicities, with the same niche obsession as you. It's kind of cool to be able to walk up to someone and go, "Hey, what's your favorite 80s slasher?" and not be looked at like a complete raving madman. The best part is the stories you'll hear from the other attendees. You'll hear about how someone met their spouse at a screening of Beetlejuice, or how they're an accountant by day, but at night they were in an extreme haunted house. A lot of the people attend these conventions in memoriam of a loved one who has since passed, but introduced them to horror in the first place. When people from entirely different walks of life can come together and form friendships over something like scary movies, that's beautiful. It's ironic, really. Some of the sweetest people you'll ever meet have played some of the most vicious on-screen monsters of all time. I cannot stress enough how much I recommend attending a convention and meeting people just like you. Chances are, if it exists, there's a whole convention dedicated to celebrating it. Comics, books, movies, games, TV shows, careers, hobbies. When it comes down to it, people getting to meet each other over a shared interest is a beautiful thing. And I've picked up some pretty cool stuff because of this. I now know how to do special effects makeup and create all sorts of grotesque scars and burns out of liquid latex and putty. A skill that I've learned to treasure because it's what makes me, me. I now know that I would like to pursue a career in the entertainment industry, and all because of horror, I found my purpose. I was once told by a man named Tony Todd, aka the Candyman from the 1993 film Candyman, that I'd make a great director because of the way I look at the world. So let me ask you this. How do you look at the world? Because of things like The Haunted Mansion and old horror films, I now see the world as a beautiful place filled with numerous talented, amazing individuals. Without it, I'd probably be unable to come up here and give this speech. I hope if you learn anything from my mad ramblings, it's this. Community can be found even in the most dark, most macabre depths of the earth, and even if you're not into horror, you should know, you are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, for sharing how finding community can help us grow and redefine ourselves. Let's see how our community is being changed by local CHS students. Hear on how they bring the future of business to everyday life. Scale, student consultants advancing local economies.
A majority of the businesses could not wrap their heads around us coming in and providing them a free service. So Kay, Felipe, and I have always been business-minded and wanted to use our interest to make some kind of club. We had a general idea that we wanted to help out businesses with marketing in some sense.
We printed out a bunch of flyers and we walked around downtown and we're trying to get people to just talk to us.
Real world experience up until the pandemic showed us really clearly that businesses didn't believe that we had anything real to offer them. Pandemic hits and we realized we have a really interesting opportunity to kind of help out with. And that's, all these businesses are frantic, trying to figure out how they're gonna market in this new COVID economy. And we realized that business-minded high schoolers have this really unique experience with social media and this type of marketing.
Kay and Sam were really into computer science, I know that, and they do a lot of the technology stuff. A lot of the things we do now are self-taught, building websites, social media stuff.
So we sat down and came up with this pretty basic plan of, we're gonna take high schoolers that are passionate about what they're doing and passionate about marketing and pair them with local businesses who need the help to get online and provide real help to them. The EDAC, that's the economics committee that we are a part of and that we help with, and we ran projects with them. As a result of that, we'd have people come to us with businesses that needed our help. One of those guys was Sonny's Indian Kitchen. We heard a little bit about him, said, oh, it's just this nice guy that needs help with the website, doesn't know how to open his computer properly without breaking something. And that's exactly the type of situation we're looking for, and we're looking to help someone that's willing to hear ideas. We ended up having dinner with him and just talking about what he's been up to for 2.5 hours, expecting a half-an-hour meeting. Just talking about life. He was giving us advice. This is honestly it's a good example of one of the reasons why I love and we love participating and really getting involved in this scale efforts, because we're able to meet people like Sonny who can just share their experiences with us and give us advice and just talk with us. It's really such an rewarding experience. So we're motivated to help him, motivated to help his company. We built them a website, we helped them with a menu, an online menu. Around that time, we had heard about a campaign that was being run for Jackie Erb, who was just a local 5-year-old who was recently diagnosed with leukemia. We realized there was an amazing opportunity to help this girl using Sonny's marketing platform that we created for him. And we talked it over and ended up agreeing that Sonny would donate 50% of his proceeds at that time to from the Friday and Saturday that the event was running to the girl and to the family. And he left us with this motivating message of, all right, guys, I'm doing this for the girl, and I'm gonna give my all for the girl. You three need to make this amazing. You guys need to blow this up and blow me away. And we took that to heart. We really cracked down on our advertising.
Sonny cooks all by himself, so I was even texting him and calling him, and I was like, Sonny, do you need any help like bagging stuff or like trying to get stuff in? But he was so busy just like actually cooking the entire day for like this event that he didn't even have like time to check his phone. It was actually insane.
We were able to, it was I think triple his revenue for that Friday and Saturday. We raised Jackie our $3,000 using our marketing and stuff that we've been able to work on with Sonny. And it was such a rewarding experience, being able to see the direct impact we had on this family, and just feeling that sense of accomplishment, really like, super rejuvenating for us. It was a great experience.
Like the way we want to keep scale growing, it's kind of like similar to like a franchise model, where there's like a bunch of franchisees, and then that's the way it keeps growing. But obviously, to do that, you need the franchisees, and for us, that would be the students that are willing to put in the time, put in the work, and really build a scale chapter in their towns. As we should really thank Councilman Len Resto and Mayor Thad Klobuchar.
And Mrs. Diamonds in the high school.
Of course, Mr. Steinmetz.
If you guys want to check out Scale, we're there at chathamscale.com. You can learn all about us, both applying and what our future plans will be.
We just heard how our local businesses are being given more opportunities from students. But what if we could extend that opportunity, perhaps to people who are struggling, maybe even some of our young girls? Here to share her ideas on sexism and ADHD diagnosis, Julia Hearn.
From a young age, girls are taught to be quiet, not to interrupt, to be ladylike. If a girl is disruptive, she may be ostracized by her peers. Her male counterpart with similar behavior may be dismissed as the class clown and even celebrated by his peers. Girls feel pressure to not speak without raising their hands, to not be noticed for the wrong reasons. These jitters may build up and get shoved into a bottle. Maybe she's a great student, talkative in groups, eager to learn, straight A's on the report card. She has pent-up energy that explodes when she gets home. Math sheets take hours, and independent reading drags on for forever. As she gets older, unfinished exams are submitted. Art projects are turned in weeks late. Stress builds, and keeping up with her honors-level classmates gets unbearably difficult. She's anxious. She has OCD. She wonders, why is everything so hard? Sophomore year of high school. Why is school so hard? Why is it so hard to pay attention during class? Why is my chem teacher going so fast? Was I supposed to know that? I don't remember learning about that last year. Why am I always left out? Does everyone hate me? Why is school so hard? I have ADHD. No one knew. When my mom observed my jitters and fidgets in first grade, my pediatrician dismissed it. I was well behaved in school. I got good grades. I couldn't have ADHD. But I do have ADHD. And I waited almost 16 years for a diagnosis. Before being diagnosed, I thought it was all my fault. It was my fault I always left my homework at home. It was my fault I talked so much. My thoughts were constantly buzzing around my head, clouding my ability to focus. Even when I sat there in the doctor's office, listening to the psychologist explain what ADHD is, I couldn't help but think it was all my fault. But after I could put a name on why I was feeling the way I was, things started falling into place. The school gave me accommodations, and I started working with a therapist to develop better habits. Things were getting better. When I tell my friends that I have ADHD, they don't seem very surprised. We've probably all interacted with people with ADHD without even knowing they have ADHD. Because not everyone with ADHD is a hyperactive ball of energy that is constantly in motion. Some people with ADHD are more hyperactive and impulsive. This can look like excessive fidgeting, forgetfulness, excessive talking, and trouble waiting for their turn. However, other people with ADHD are more easily distracted and inattentive. This can look like trouble with quiet activities and trouble staying focused. Most people with ADHD have a combination of both types. In my social life, I'm a blend of both. Explaining to my friends that I have ADHD helped them understand why I would go from filling the room with stories and jokes one minute to completely tuning out conversations the next. There's certainly some stigma attached to being neurodivergent. Being not normal is the enemy of someone that just wants to blend in. But by trying to blend in, I would ignore my needs that are specific to my ADHD. At first, asking for extra time on a test or a repeated explanation felt wrong. I would blame myself for not being able to keep up with my classmates. I had to learn that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay for my brain to work differently from other people's. Stephen Hinshaw is a professor of psychology at UC Berkeley. He calls ADHD an equal opportunity condition. That sounds pretty good to me. But what lies beneath the surface of that name is the fact that girls with ADHD are flying under the radar and are slipping through our fingers. 50% fewer girls are referred for ADHD diagnosis and treatment than boys. ADHD is not less common in girls. It's just less detected. Mental health professionals and doctors need to understand the fundamental differences of ADHD in females so less girls will go undiagnosed and suffer from higher rates of mental health issues. Sexism in the world of ADHD starts with a lack of females being evaluated in studies. Dr. David Rabner is a psychologist and researcher that specializes in ADHD. He explains that most studies of children with ADHD have been conducted either solely on boys or have included very few girls in the study. So scientific literature on ADHD is pretty much exclusively based on male subjects. You know that saying, it's a man's world? Well, in this case, it's true. If school counselors, teachers, and even doctors only understand how ADHD works in the male brain, then less girls will be diagnosed. When boys misbehave in the classroom, their behavior is dismissed or even accepted. The idea that boys will be boys allows and maybe even encourages them to continue being rowdy. Boys have the space to be disruptive, to speak out of turn, to ignore instructions during class. In elementary school, boys would be shouting out answers and jumping out of their seat. I would know the answer, but that was never enough to jump up and shout. I stuck my hand up straight in the air, wiggling my fingers, desperately wanting to be called on and participate. I wanted to receive validation from my teacher. But a good kid doesn't need validation. The teacher could just check my homework to see that I understood. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted the teacher to know I knew right then and there. A smiley face sticker on a worksheet just wasn't the same. I wanted the teacher to call on me with every fiber in my body, but never badly enough to jump up and shout the answer. That would be embarrassing. That would make me the weird girl that never waits her turn. And during silent reading, boys would be making silly faces at each other and flicking paper. Of course I wanted to do that. Having to sit still and read was no simple task. But instead, I just sat there, squirming in my seat. Psychosocial impairments in girls with ADHD are well established. It's not that it doesn't exist in girls, it's just that it's going unnoticed. Sex-specific behavioral differences have been identified. So we know that girls can have ADHD and that it can behave differently than it does in boys. It's been established that diagnosing girls can be more complicated. In some cases, things like the later age of onset symptoms and the more subtle clinical manifestation leads girls to go years without receiving a diagnosis. Similarly, girls' brains can mature as much as 1 or 2 years earlier than boys, specifically in the regions that are affected by ADHD. Girls with undiagnosed ADHD often suffer mentally due to a lack of acknowledgement or validation of their social and academic struggles. Studies have shown that girls with ADHD are more likely to struggle with low self-esteem. They also face a higher risk of becoming involved with violent partners. Even after receiving a diagnosis, girls with ADHD have higher rates of self-harm, substance abuse, and suicide attempts. They are 2.5 times more likely to suffer from major depression as adolescents. But I want to be clear that ADHD can negatively impact anyone that has it, regardless of gender identity, and I don't want to invalidate anyone's struggles. That being said, there's a clear problem at hand. Girls with ADHD are struggling, even after receiving a diagnosis. It can be hard for girls to feel truly confident in their abilities. Sure, there are some scientific differences that make it trickier to detect, so include them in more studies. But the social problems that are teaching girls not to draw attention to themselves may be the root of the problem. We need to start making a change. Teachers and counselors, try looking further than the grade book when it comes to detecting ADHD. The girls that never raise their hands, pay extra attention to them. The girls that are clearly struggling, pay extra attention to them. The girls with the good grades, they seem to be doing fine. Pay extra attention to them. We need to redefine how we look at ADHD. Yes, I have ADHD, and yes, it makes me different, but it doesn't make me who I am. I have other characteristics that define me as a person. I'm passionate and caring, and I'm okay with being different. Different isn't bad, and neither is ADHD. As a community, we need to be okay with different. We need to be compassionate and understanding towards people's differences. If we change how we look at ADHD, if we see how it changes people's needs, we can be more compassionate to peers with ADHD, regardless of gender identity. So, start having these conversations. The best way to minimize the stigma around neurodiversity is to talk about it. ADHD doesn't have to be an unspoken taboo that you should never mention. You never know who you could help by normalizing it. Thank you.
Paying extra attention, even when you don't think you have to, can be incredibly impactful. Thank you, Julia. Tonight we've heard from students who have taken the Talking the Talk elective at the high school. But what if we brought the microphone to some of our youngest students in the district? Let's hear from Washington Avenue School elementary students on ideas they think are worth spreading.
My name is Annie Devlin. My job is to find ideas worth spreading from all over the world. And who knows, the next best TED Talk might actually be in the 3rd grade of Washington Avenue School.
So one of the 3rd grade parents at Washington Avenue School, Annie Devlin, is involved with the program at the high school and also with the TED organization that teaches kids how to write and present their own TED Talks.
That a good TED Talk unlocks empathy, stirs excitement, shares knowledge and insights, promotes a shared dream or a vision for the future.
So in the video that was created by our 3rd grade parent, she focused on 3 thoughts for the students. She had up on the screen.
What? So what? And now what?
What, which is mean like what your topic was and your opinion. So what? Like why does this matter? And now what? So what can you do and what can you suggest other students do to make a change and a difference?
So instead of showing them famous speeches from adults, we showed them speeches and TED Talks from kids. And then we talked to them about what they noticed and how the children spoke, how they used hand gestures and eye contact, and all of these public speaking elements that we never really covered before with this.
This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other.
They thought of 3 key points to touch upon in their speeches, and the teachers encouraged them to provide examples to enhance these points.
Key point 1. We do not need tests every time we are done with a topic.
We will socialize more. If we build one, we will make new friends. We will meet up with our old friends. We will play together.
I think what surprised us most was how passionate and knowledgeable the students were about the whole range of topics that they chose.
If we don't stop plastic pollution, our animals will get hurt. Well, you know when you see trash everywhere? Yep, that's hurting the environment. Did you know 3.5 million trees are cut down each month? That's about 15 million trees each year. When you bike or walk, you are exercising, which makes you fit. When you are driving, you're a couch potato just relaxing in that soft seat. One little thing can make someone's entire week better. Now you have learned how smoking is very, very bad for you and people around you. Don't let bullies make you a mean person. Be a kind person. Always be a kind person. We need more trees. We need to cut down less trees.
I have a suggestion for you. If you see plastic on the ground, then pick it up.
They also, we talked about the importance of including a personal story along with their key points so that the listener, which were their peers, their third grade peers, could relate to what the students were writing and then speaking about.
And then when I was at the sport, I remembered, wait, I forgot to do my homework. I was shocked and upset to see the damage caused by a forest fire shown on the news.
After all, even though we have different nationalities, we are all from the same place if we go back enough time.
They loved sharing their ideas. Overall, they were so excited to make their TED Talks.
My favorite part was probably when I did my call to action because I got to be in charge and feel like I had power. I think it helped me with public speaking because you have to talk to the camera and make it interesting so people want to watch it, and usually when you're just talking to someone you don't talk like that. I used to have really bad stage fright because I thought there were people that were watching me were judging me, but then it turned out they want me to do good. If I was ever famous or if I ever went on a stage in front of people, I would just imagine them to be my class because I'm comfortable when I'm talking in front of my class.
So you want to sort of try to show emotion and be active.
And overall, I think it was a really positive experience and definitely a success.
So if you listened and paid close attention, you would be happy, healthy, and most importantly, safe.
Wow, can you believe kids that young can get up and talk like that? It's so amazing to see them talk about things they are incredibly passionate about, and it just proves how creative our young students are. On that note, our final speaker, Sarah Myler, asks us to look to goldfish, yes, goldfish crackers, as a way to see the world around us in a different light. Take it away, Sarah.
What's your favorite snack? I know for certain that mine is goldfish. Goldfish is something that has always been a part of my life. For as long as I can remember, there's been a gallon box of goldfish on my nightstand. It might have to do with the fact that my dog shows me 10 times more love and affection whenever I have goldfish in my hand, which is weird, right? A dog that loves food? Never heard of it. Or maybe it has to do with the fact that I've always wanted to go to space. And fun fact, goldfish boarded the Space Shuttle Discovery in 1988 and blasted off into space. Or maybe it has to do with the fact that the first ingredient is smiles. It stays next to my bed because I take a lot of hard classes which require a lot of work. And I have the worst time management skills. So I'm up at around midnight trying to complete my assignments every single night. It's awful. I do not recommend doing it. But I tend to get hungry. Procrastination takes a lot out of me. I mean, the amount of energy it takes, I would consider myself a pro. But every single night I am falling asleep at my computer, trying to complete my assignments with one hand, while the other is just scooping out goldfish from the container. The worst part about it is I'm not even hungry half the time. My hand has just gotten used to that motion. But every night I regret the decisions I made earlier in the day to push my homework off even further. I get so caught up in that mentality that it takes me even longer to complete my assignments. How many of you have ever been there? I waste so much time and energy regretting the decisions that I made in the past that I get stuck in a constant cycle of regret and procrastination. I didn't do it earlier, and that's when I begin to stress. I get so caught up thinking about the decisions I made in the past that I forget about my assignments completely. And I'm not alone. Procrastination has increased in the past years and is continuing to increase, with 88% of the world admitting to doing it. The box of goldfish that sits on my nightstand reminds me that while everything is temporary, there is still time for me to complete anything. When the box runs out, I go to the store to get more. When I run out, I sleep and recharge. The box reminds me that I've been in situations like this many times before. And most of the time, I do things successfully. And other times I don't, but nobody is perfect. As humans, we face a lot of pressure and stress, two things that most of us don't know how to handle. But the box has taught me that we always have to be patient and we always have to treat ourselves with kindness. The small snack is my biggest supporter. It's there when I'm happy, excited, nervous, afraid, and even amazed. Sometimes it's the snack that smiles back, while other times it reminds me to smile, and I'm the one smiling back. Goldfish reminds me to keep pushing through life. Whether it's a necklace, blanket, stuffed animal, or family heirloom, or really any object, we all need something that we keep fighting for. I want you to think about what this is for you. And if you don't have one, find it. As the average teenager, I spend a lot of my limited time on my phone. Usually I'm communicating with friends or family, or I'm scrolling through hours of social media. And while the internet can be a time suck in many ways, not only bad things come out of it. One of my favorite websites is hbs1963.com. It's a website that my sister introduced to me. It was created in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Harvard Business School class of 1963. The website itself is filled with quotes of advice and wisdom from the graduates. While there are many categories on the website, the piece of advice that stuck out to me the most was, embrace humility and learn from your mistakes, but do not let them consume you with the paralysis of indecision or the depression of regret. Even the brightest and most successful people in this world, those who have it all, tend to get caught up in the past. By doing so, it consumes you. It takes control over your brain, and every decision you make afterwards is influenced by the humiliation and the bad experiences you had. In life, we have to recognize the parts of it that we don't like and that we're not proud of, like a box of goldfish. If you were to try out a new flavor like pizza, for example, you have to recognize that it is worse than cheddar, because it is. It is much worse than cheddar. But you also have to recognize why. But you cannot dwell on that. I'm very busy, whether it's playing sports or doing work, but I always make sure that I have time to spend with my family, whether it's watching a movie or playing a board game. We all face stress in life, but we must not let that affect how we treat others. It is important to show our loved ones how much they mean to us, even if the timing is inconvenient for us. I am temporary. I know I will not live forever, but what I don't know is how much time I have left. One day will be the last time you tie your cleats, or the last time you handed a math test, or even the last time you go on vacation. Everything is temporary, and we won't know how much any of those actions mean until they're gone. As I eat the pieces of goldfish, I can feel the weight of the box decrease, but I don't know how many pieces are left. We have to give everything our all when we're in the moment, because one day we won't have anything to give our everything to. The future does not belong to us. No one really knows when the last time they will do anything will be, so why do we act as if we do? A minute is a very quick period of time that can either feel exceptionally long or relatively short. It all depends on the situation you're in. If you have ever been in a plank, I would first like to say I am sorry. But a plank goes by so slowly. You're shaking and you look over at your phone thinking that 55 seconds have passed when only 8 have. Or you could be with your friends, having the time of your life, laughing to the point where tears are rolling down your cheeks. And time will fly by. So why is that? It is due to a neurotransmitter in the brain involving the chemical dopamine. Dopamine is a very important chemical involved in feeling rewarded. it also affects how our brain perceives time. When we're having a lot of fun and our brain is moving very quickly, we release a lot more dopamine, making it seem as though less time has passed than actually has. When we're bored and sluggish and moving very slowly, our brain will release less dopamine, and it'll feel as though more time has passed than actually has. Whenever I'm in a class that I've never felt an attraction to, time crawls. I'm sitting there miserable because it seems as though the clock is never changing. But as I sit in English, the 45 minutes fly by. In English, I'm surrounded by completely different people who all have their own personalities. But that's what makes it fun. Our differences are what keep things engaging. In a society where you have the exact same routine every single day, what makes it interesting? What makes us want to live? What reminds you to smile back and make the most out of our lives while we are here? Not every box of goldfish I've ever had has been baked to perfection with every single piece smiling back at me. The boxes that have that don't exist. They're too good to be true. But the best box of goldfish I've ever had, I went through in one day. And in case you didn't know, that is 28 servings with 55 pieces in each serving. Definitely not one of my finest moments. But I've also had boxes of goldfish that went old and they were stale, so I threw them out. So in my opinion, it evens out. We all have regrets in this world, but we cannot let that consume us. We must use the tools, skills, and knowledge that we have gained to keep pushing through life. As Dory once said, just keep swimming. It might feel as though you are lost and you have no idea where life is taking you, but just let life guide you. You have to move forward even if you take it slowly. Go ahead even if no one goes with you. Now, you may be wondering how a 16-year-old came up with all of these philosophical ideas. Well, it was the last day of vacation. My dad, my sister, and I decided that we wanted to watch the sunrise on top of a 10,009-foot volcano, Haleakala, in Maui, Hawaii. As we watched the sunrise, we were all eating goldfish from the gallon container. One of the prettiest sights that I've ever seen lasted only minutes. I am not here forever. My time is limited, and I'm fully aware of that, but I'm determined to make the most out of my time while I am here. The day I realized I wasted years of my life was my realization, and while it wasn't easy for me to accept in the moment, it completely changed the way I view myself and the way I present myself to the world. I hope one day everyone has their realization so that when they look back on their life, there is nothing that they would have done differently. I hope you have your realization so that you can live your life to the fullest. A small snack can have such a large impact on an individual as you have seen through me. It may be the snack that smiles back, but sometimes it reminds me to smile, and I'm the one smiling back. It reminds me that our lives are temporary and to live my life to the fullest while I'm still here. I want you to find something bigger, because the reward that comes with it will be monumental. Find something that you could live without, but would never wish to, and figure out why. What is your safety blanket? What is the real reason that you want to keep that object in your life? What might it teach you about your life? Redefine the way you are living, because once you realize that everything is temporary and not perfect, including us, you'll begin to live. Thank you.
Next time I pull a late night, I'll be sure to keep some goldfish nearby. So thank you, Sarah. Wow, what a night. I'd just like to thank our speakers, because it takes a lot of courage to stand up on top of this dot and say your idea is worth spreading. I'd also like to take this moment to thank two very special people, because this would not be possible without the teachers who teach the Talking the Talk elective. So thank you, Mrs. Russo and Ms. McCabe, for everything you do to elevate our voices and help us share our ideas. I'd also like to thank the people behind the scenes, especially Mr. Henderson, who without him, we wouldn't have had the event filmed and edited in time. So thank you. And I will leave you all with this. What can you redefine in your own life? And what ideas can you challenge? Thank you, and good night.
Back pressed up against the wall, I've heard the shot, haven't seen the call. My mind's made up to see the light, my eyes are still shut. Bright forecast on a dark day, the tides they churn but there are no waves. I crave all the meaning of what's out there, my heart is spoken.